Hey lovelies, it's Kate. Welcome back to another video. This time I'm building a canyon mansion. So I wanted to create a canyon, and for this I started off by using the terrain tools, as you can see here. So I shaped a river in the center, I raised the terrain on the side so I had a gap in the center, and then I simply filled this gap with a pool. So you could also use a fountain for this, but you cannot place anything above a fountain, so it's best to just use a pool. So I filled in the whole space, and it doesn't have to look perfect because I like to use some rocks and plants to just hide the edges so it looks perfect or nearly perfect. So I just roughly filled in the gap that I created, and then I started to place a lot of debug rocks. These debug rocks belong to Strangerville. Strangerville is set in the desert, so this is kind of the whole theme of the pack, and this looks kind of like the Monument Valley, and I used a lot of these rocks. So if you want to create something like this, Strangerville is the perfect pack. And in case you have no idea, this is not CC because all my builds are CC free. There is a debug menu. You can access it by using two cheats, the bb.show hidden objects cheat and the bb.show live edit objects cheat. These are just perfect to create a canyon like this, and after I had created my little river, I just placed a ton of these rocks so I could shape a little canyon. So all of these rocks are super big, like the original size is huge. So I sized all of them down, even the bigger ones in the back. I decided to place the biggest ones in the back so I could create some type of backdrop, and then I placed smaller ones in the front and on the right side of the river. This way the rocks wouldn't obstruct the view of the river and the build that I'm going to create. So I just placed the biggest ones in the back so I could create the illusion of a canyon. And then I also used the regular base game rock in the red swatch just to fill in some gaps, because I have to say it wasn't that easy to work with these rocks, especially when you size them down. They just hover above the terrain, and it was super tricky to bring them into the correct position. And for that reason, I decided to use the tool mod once again. I've talked about this before, and I've used this mod a lot for my most recent builds. So if you want to download this lot from the gallery, it's still completely unmodded and the rocks are still in the correct position. You don't need the mod for this, it's unmodded in the gallery. Just a small disclaimer in case you want to use this. So I used this mod to lower some of the rocks into the terrain. This way they wouldn't hover above the terrain. I also didn't want to build a basement. This is another little trick. You can build a basement, then you can place an object in the basement and you just raise it. If you don't want to use a mod and if you want to recreate something similar, I'd advise to use this method. But if you use this method, make sure that you place your object, the rock in this case, kind of inside the basement wall, because otherwise it turns darker. The light is just weird if you just place it inside the basement. Probably it's just like the basement light situation, I have no idea, but it looks weird. So this is the method that I would advise to use if you would like to recreate something like this without any mods. I mean, probably it would have worked without the basement trick and without the mod, but I really wanted to create this rocky landscape. I really wanted to merge all of these rocks together and inside the terrain. I also noticed that for some rocks, it kind of depends. You could also place them and then raise the terrain, and this way you could also merge them into the terrain, but this didn't work for all of these rocks. Some of them would just jump up and they would be raised together with the terrain. So yeah, it just depends, and you have to figure out what works. If you want to create a rocky landscape, but you are not really sure if you can nail it, if you are a beginner or anything, I can advise to use the cats and dogs rock. It's a debug object, it has a long shape, I've talked about this one before, and the difference is it kind of sinks into the terrain, and it's really easy to create some beautiful rocky landscape with this object. They are kind of the opposite of these rocks here. These were really tricky, so if you're a beginner, if you want to try something like this, you could use this rock for example. So here I'm starting to work on the build, finally. So I had created the river and the canyon, and then I had also created this little round patio area on the left side. As always, I used the round foundation piece with a fence attached to it, because when you make it one tile smaller on both sides, you can merge it into a perfect half circle or circle. And this is what I did, so I have this beautiful round shape. Of course, I just had to include at least one round shape here. But then I had to figure out what I would like to build actually, and I blanked for a second and I had no idea. Sometimes this happens, I have an idea for the landscaping and then I just notice, okay, you have to add a build, you have to add a house. So I was going for a modern build and I really wanted to merge the house into the rocks, so it looks like a house built inside a canyon. And as you will see later when I'm working on the interior, in one part of the building, here in the front, the rocks are glitching into the wall. And I did this on purpose, so it really looks like a house that was built inside the canyon. There are some builds that really use this kind of method in real life. And this is what I wanted to do here, but only in one part of the main building. And as you will see, I'm going to place a fireplace there, so it looks really unique and beautiful. And I'm also going to use a floor that kind of has the same colors. So you can really tell that I did this on purpose. I didn't want this to look random, basically. But in the rest of the house, this is not the case, so it looks like a regular modern house on the inside. For some of the roofs, I used a red color, so the color looks identical with the rocks basically. And here I'm using a waterfall. This is an island living object, and once again it's a debug object. And for this object you have to activate the bb.show live edit object sheet, then enter world into the search bar and press enter, and then you have to search for it because it has a pale blue color and the background is white, so it's really hard to see sometimes. So my idea was to build a pool on the right side, like a proper pool, and then the waterfall would lead into the little river and the canyon. So I have a connection between the actual pool and the river, and I think a waterfall is always beautiful. So whenever I have the chance to use a waterfall, I usually do that. So I had to include it. I had also pushed the bridge a bit to the front, so there was enough space for the waterfall so it could really shine. And then I just worked on the terrain on the outside of the pool because I just had to connect everything. So I needed a connection between the patio area on the left side and the main building. So the entrance to the main building is on the right side, and the room at the bottom is kind of small. There's just a bathroom and the stairs are leading up to the actual house, to the actual living area. And the small room on the left side that you can see behind the round area, this is just a little home gym. So the main part of the building is on the right side, and it has 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. So it's not as big as it looks because, as you can tell probably, I used a lot of the space for the landscaping. The main part of this lot, even though it's 50 by 50, is just the canyon and the river. So I really had to make sure that I squeeze in 3 bedrooms because I think it just doesn't make sense to have such a huge lot and build and then there isn't enough space for Sims. So I really wanted this to be, at least a proper family home basically. And I also placed a hot tub on the left side, and this hot tub was added to the game yesterday because of the 20th anniversary of The Sims, which was amazing. So I was building this, and then at some point I saw on Twitter that people were updating their game, and all day everyone was holding their breath and waiting what's going to happen. And then I closed the game, updated, loaded this build back up, and then I immediately added this hot tub, not only because it was new, but I also had no idea what to place there. And I mean, look at this space is just perfect for this hot tub, and the whole design of this, like the swatch of this hot tub, is just perfect. It was just meant to be. So it's been 20 years now since The Sims 1 came out, and that's crazy to me, and it was also quite emotional for me yesterday. So I've been playing since Sims 1, so I've been a Simmer for 20 years now, and I know that it's the same for many of you out there, but I also know that some of you aren't even 20 years old probably, so it doesn't matter if you have been playing since The Sims 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. We are all Simmers, and I think it was just such an emotional day. It was just like a birthday for The Sims, and I think the whole energy on Twitter was amazing yesterday because everyone was sharing their just stories, how this game means so much to them. Many people just use it as a coping mechanism. It's a creative outlet. It means so much for so many people. A lot of people play out stories in their game to just cope, and it's just amazing. And sometimes it's just a little place where you can escape to if you have to. And it's also super fun, of course. So it means a lot to many people, and it also means a lot to me. And I've been playing for so long now, and I would have never imagined that I would be a content creator for The Sims 4 at some point, and you guys made this possible for me. You guys have been supporting me, and I just had to think about all these things yesterday, where I am now with this channel, and I enjoy this so much, and I just enjoy that, just to have this community. I'm just so grateful for every single one of you, and as I said yesterday on Twitter, this game takes you to amazing places. But I mean, to be really honest here, I said that there was a lot of good energy on Twitter yesterday, and this was true up to a certain point, and this point was when the hot tub was released, when the patch came out. I was super happy about this. I'm just happy that we got anything. I'm happy that now everyone, even base game players, have a hot tub, but many people were disappointed. A couple of days ago, SimGuruFrost said that we should keep our expectations in check and that it would be essentially just a small surprise, and this is exactly what it was. So after reading his tweet, I just wasn't expecting much. I didn't expect, I don't know, open world cars or a pack announcement, so I didn't expect a lot, and I was really happy with this cute little hot tub. I think there was also a giveaway, and Simmers who had added expansion packs to their origin wish list, like hundreds of Simmers were chosen randomly and they received packs on origin. I think this is also really nice, but some people expected more because it was the 20th anniversary, and also many Simmers were a little bit disappointed because essentially this hot tub is a modification and a new swatch for the perfect patio hot tub. When you look closely, the shape is identical, also this little hole or whatever it is in the front, and they just changed the color and then they added a roof on top. Some Simmers also criticized that they had paid for this hot tub and then now it's added to the game for free. Personally, I don't know, I don't mind this because I'm just happy that everyone now has a hot tub in their game, because I know that many Simmers only own the base game. Personally, I don't care that I have paid for this in the past and now everyone has it. I'm just happy for those who now have a hot tub. I also like this watch. It's perfect, it's beautiful for many builds, but of course I totally understand and respect that many Simmers don't like this. But I don't know, I think I was just super emotional yesterday and happy, and just reading all these wonderful tweets before the update and just thinking back of 20 years of simming. And my mom is also a Simmer, so when I was a kid, I was building something, she was building something, and then I would show her what I built, and I would check out her builds, and she's still a Simmer, and we still check out each other's builds. So for me, it just means a lot, and I know that it does to many people. So I'm just, I don't know, I was just quite happy yesterday. If you want to make me angry, then you should just forget to add a matching cabinet to a counter, for example. No, this was like something that really bothered me, for example. It's not that I don't know, I voice criticism and some stuff really annoys me and I voice my criticism in a polite and constructive manner, but some, like the counter situation, or that there aren't matching cabinets for the Realm of Magic counters, for example, I didn't like that. But I don't know, this was just a little freebie, so I don't know, I just wasn't as annoyed that they reused the shape of the old hot tub, for example. I mean, for some stuff, this is a bit lazy when it comes to paid content, when it comes to expansion packs, game packs, and stuff packs. I wholeheartedly agree that it it's not a cool thing to always recycle objects that we already got in the game. But here it was just a little free base game surprise, so I don't think that there is a lot to criticize for me personally. Again, I totally respect when some people felt this way. I just think it's good to voice this in a constructive manner because some people were just kind of going crazy on Twitter. I don't know. But enough about this. I just wanted to talk about the anniversary because it's a big deal in the Sims community. I wanted to talk about the hot tub, but now we move on, and here is to the next decade of simming. So here I'm working on the interior. I've been doing this for the last couple of minutes actually when I was rambling about a hot tub. So the interior is modern. I used a lot of wood here and there, so I do not think wood is just perfect for a desert theme. And I have also built this little fireplace area where the rock is essentially glitching through the wall, and I used a rack that is part of Tiny Living. I used a lot of Tiny Living objects here, and the stereo bookshelf TV combination is also part of Tiny Living. I could have used a huge TV here, but it just looks so cute, so I wanted to use this for the living room area. And this is one of the bathrooms, so I used the Discover University shower because it's just perfect. You can just create your own walk-in shower, which is super beautiful and modern, and the shape was just perfect for this because I could use this little square for the shower, and then I just had to change the opening a little bit so there was enough space for a bathtub underneath the window, and it just looks really bright and inviting and modern. I didn't use a lot of dark colors here. I really wanted this to look really fresh and airy and beautiful. And this here is the top floor, and I'm working on the bedrooms here. So there's one master bedroom for the parents, for example, and then I built two small kids rooms. You could either change them to regular bedrooms, or you could also remove a wall and turn this into one big bedroom, but I really wanted this to be a kind of typical family mansion, which is what I really like to build. Recently I've started to not always include a lot of kids rooms, because when I started out with this channel I always built one master bedroom for the parents and all the other bedrooms were kids rooms, and then I started to change this up a little bit, so some of my builds also don't have any kids rooms at all, or maybe 3 regular bedrooms and then 1 kids room, for example, so there is a bit of variety going on. I also use some Tiny Living objects for these kids rooms because they are quite small, so I use the little desk. And there's also a small desk that belongs to City Living, so if you don't own Tiny Living but you want to build a very small desk, then City Living is also a good option. Here for this kids room I used a bigger desk so I could place the bookshelf on the desk. And this is it, guys. As always, I included screenshots also of the floor plan. This build is fully furnished and available in the gallery. You can find all the information in the description box down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a perfect day and a perfect week, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye bye.